New York City's Herald Square. This is Brian Ross Investigates. Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to hear from a young woman who says she was recruited to be a sex slave for the powerful men who run her church, with the grooming beginning, she says, at the age of 9. It's a sordid tale, but one backed up by disclosures in court papers following the arrest and pending trial of her church leader. Her name is Xochil Martin, and prosecutors say she's among dozens of young girls to be trafficked by the powerful church leader over the last decade. But she's the first to come forward and speak publicly.
He is Jesus. He's Jesus here on earth. He was the purest, most perfect man on earth.
Naason Joaquin Garcia is called the Apostle by the millions of followers who he claims belong to his Light of the World Church, an evangelical fundamentalist church active in every state in the United States and in dozens of other countries around the world.
So everything that I was taught to do for him, it wasn't wrong. It was blessing. It was a blessing.
But now Xochil Martin says she knows better, that what she did for the apostle was wrong, very wrong. And now she's coming forward in this interview and in a lawsuit set to be filed soon, claiming the apostle turned her into a sex slave and ordered her to help him recruit young boys and girls for sex trafficking. Did you see times where there were girls under the age of 17 who were involved in a sexual relationship or having sex?
With Naason? Yes. All the time.
In which he was
Yes.
having
Sexually,
sex with them?
Yes.
Essentially raping them, right?
Yes. I was there.
You saw that?
I saw that.
Often? Occasionally?
Often. It was an everyday thing.
Xochil Martin's account comes as the church leader is already behind bars in Los Angeles, awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges brought by the California Attorney General. He has pleaded not guilty.
The type of crimes that belong nowhere in our society, from human trafficking, production of child pornography, oral copulation, rape, statutory rape, child molestation, extortion, conspiracy, and more.
Xochil says she's now cooperating with the California Attorney General and with the FBI and federal prosecutors, the first alleged victim of Garcia to speak publicly.
I was a member of the church for 30 years of my life. I was born into the church, 4th generation. My great-grandparents, my grandparents were one of the first members of the Los Angeles church, Youth.
But she says inside the church, the young girls recruited for the apostle are considered special, encouraged even by their own mothers to serve him.
You think that you're chosen and you're taught that you're lucky. You're lucky to be there and that you're the rest of the girls that you're around. Wow, out of all of these girls in the church, thousands and thousands of members of the church in this congregation, out of all of them, I'm chosen. When you're taken to a private room or to one of his private homes or his private properties and you're forced to take your clothes off for them and touch them and seduce them in a way that an older woman would.
Your mother was actually encouraging you to do this?
She took me, yes. She would buy things for me and she would take me physically and...
Knowing what was going on?
Yes, and she would speak to him before and after.
Why would she do that?
She thought it was okay. She herself, she was young, she was with him. She was one of his concubines. So I'm guessing that she thought that it was okay to do it.
Later, as a high school student in Los Angeles, attending John Marshall High School, Xochil says she was then seduced and molested by Naason Garcia, who was married at the time but not yet crowned the apostle.
He would caress my buttocks to my waist and the sides of my breasts. So in my head, again, I still try to believe that it wasn't that bad, but it's bad. And I guess if you want to call it that, it is. He molested me at age 16. And I didn't see it that way.
Xochil says when Naason took over running the
Naked during sexual affairs and, you know, the
Groups of women.
group sex, and he would record with phones and iPads and tablets, and he had his computer. He would download all of it, and he would keep that with him.
In fact, the California prosecutors have said in court they have recovered scores of the apostles' phones and tablets and computers with sex tapes of underage children.
There's devices that have content that we've identified as child pornography.
Does it bother you that you're in those videos?
It does, just because in the moment when you're there, you think it's a blessing.
But things came to a head, Xochil Martin says, when she refused to perform a sex act on a 14-year-old boy in front of the boy's mother and the apostle. She says the apostle was furious at her refusal and gave her a beating.
After the situation with him, with the little boy, he calls me back, and that's what happened. He leaned me over and he struck me until I couldn't feel my right leg.
You tell me to stop.
You can't tell him to stop. You can't tell him no. You can't tell him this isn't right. You can't tell him it hurts. You can't tell him that you're unhappy. You can't tell him that you're in pain. You can't tell him that you're confused. You can't say any of that.
Lawyers for the apostle have already attacked Xochil Martin, saying in court papers they have uncovered new evidence of Xochil Martin's own criminal conduct, saying she groomed underage girls in an attempt to extort Mr. Garcia, showing them how to pose sexy, and allegedly telling others she was in love with Mr. Garcia and repeatedly described him as her everything.
Mentally, the bravest thing I ever did was get back up when I wanted to die. And that's what I feel happened. So now that I'm up, I feel like it's my responsibility to keep going. Try all you want, but the truth is there, and justice is there, and it's waiting for you.
We asked lawyers for the church leader, Garcia, and other officials of the church to respond to the allegations of Xochil Martin, but our calls were not returned. In court papers filed last month by the California Attorney General, prosecutors said they have discovered even more evidence of his sexual abuse of young boys and girls, thousands of pornographic images, they say, evidence, they say, of how Garcia the Apostle uses his position in the church to satisfy his seemingly insatiable appetite for young girls.
No dejes de visitar el canal Los Cristianos Unidos por la Fe y dejar tus comentarios. Dios bendiga a las almas valientes que se atreven a denunciar los abusos de los falsos apóstoles.